Welcome, everybody, to the newest episode of our podcast, Ready, Set, Rewatch, a show where we go back and take a look at movies and TV shows we love, maybe a few that we hate. My name is Skyler, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Daniel.
Hello, the co-host with the co-most, me.
Today, we are continuing Star Trek TOS.
The old series, that's what it stands for.
Yeah, that's right. Star Trek, the old series.
The
And
old
the episode
series.
we're starting with is a very, very, very iconic episode
Yes.
called Balance of Terror.
Yeah, frankly, two very iconic episodes this week, I think.
For different reasons.
For very different reasons. But
For
definitely
very different tone as well.
weird. So this one, Balance of Terror, I think is iconic among fans of it. Whereas the second one that we'll talk about, I think is iconic outside of that. Because I've definitely seen I feel like I've seen a Family Guy reference to the other one.
This might be a bit controversial, I
Yeah,
guess. Or
but
no, not controversial. Edit that part out. This might be a spoiler, is what I should have said, to my review of this episode.
yes.
This Balance of Terror is considered iconic because it is the first appearance of the Romulans
The
in Star
Romulans.
Trek.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it makes the short list of like, oh, if you're gonna watch an episode of Star Trek, watch this one because it's got the Romulans in it.
Yeah.
I think this episode is iconic because it's really, really good.
I mean, spoilers. I also sort of agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think this is one of the better episodes that we've watched so far.
100%. Let's get
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, so episode 15, Balance of Terror, starts in, frankly, a sort of left field way. There's a wedding happening on the Enterprise between two characters we have not met before.
So shocking.
Yeah, Bones. It looks like Kirk is supposed to officiate it, but before he can, Bones tells Kirk that there's a call for him. So he goes to like a little wall terminal, and he's like, "Moshi Moshi, Kirk Desu," and Spock is telling him that Earth colonies 2 and 3 have gone completely silent, and so they're on their way to Earth colony 4 to see like, "Hey, what's up?" Which is I feel like it is such a wild disconnect from like, here's this happy wedding to like. And there's like people going missing. We don't know what's going on. Big mystery. But that's like the undertone because it's happening in strictly dialogue. Whereas in the background, there's people like milling around for a wedding. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's very cool actually because we get a lot in a very little amount of time here. We see, a bunch of people being rather casual, like living real life, like marriage is happening in the stars, but we are still in space and things are still dangerous. There's still scary stuff going on, and it also gives a fun little insight into Kirk's kind of bonus job as a ship captain. Very old time naval thing. Like he's a captain, so he can marry you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. A couple of things to note at this wedding real fast is for some reason Scotty is walking the bride down the aisle, and I think it's because we will later find out that the two of them, the bride and groom, both work in engineering, and so maybe it's just like, oh, this is our specific commanding officer of like our department, so maybe that's why.
Right. Yeah.
But then also Rand is just like,
for some reason.
yeah, they have yellow shirts and he's in a red shirt, so I guess it's just there. It doesn't matter. It's just very inconsistent with the coloring right now.
It's fine.
But also Rand is here. And I don't think she even says anything at this point. She's just kind of around.
Yeah.
She's just back there, like, but she's like on the dais or whatever you want to call it, like the place where Kirk is standing to officiate it.
Mm-hmm.
So she must have some role. Maybe she's like best woman. What do they call it? Bridesmaid.
Bridesmaid. Yeah. Best woman.
Best woman. Another note that I made here is that I think they make a specific point of being like sort of pointing out that the wedding is non-denominational. There's like some weird candle looking thing in the back, which like could potentially be like a reference to the menorah, maybe, which is not a wedding thing for Jewish people, but that was the only thing I think. Is like there's some candles back there, and so like that's maybe sort of a thing. But he says very specifically, Kirk, in when he's giving his like beginning of the speech that he actually gets to say, he does say like something about like our many cultures or our many beliefs or something like that. So it's very specifically like not of one denomination, which I think is interesting. Do you know what Gene Roddenberry, if he had any, was he Catholic or Jewish or something?
He was raised Southern Baptist, but later identified as humanist.
Humanist. That makes sense. Either way, uh, just as Kirk starts the speech to officiate the wedding, Spock calls over like the loudspeaker and he says, Earth Colony 4 is under attack. And so Kirk runs over and orders a red alert, and the wedding is ruined.
Oh, man.
Oh, another thing I took a note of that I wanted to mention here is that neither the bride nor the groom are like dressed for a wedding. They're just in their
Right.
uniforms, and the
Yeah.
woman has like some white feathers in her hair, and that's it. That's
Yeah.
all they did.
Well, I mean, I I guess when you get married, you do, if you've served, you do wear your service uniform, your naval uniform in this manner.
That is true. I immediately after this it goes to the intro, and when we come back, they're all on the bridge, but 4 has gone silent. Earth Base 4 has gone silent before they can identify who their attacker is. But the guy next to Sulu, who is apparently the navigator, whose name is Styles, something Styles,
Yeah,
Harry Styles.
yeah.
I'm gonna call him
AJ
Harry Styles. Harry Styles is more funny, but that's fine.
To you maybe.
Yeah, well, the guy Styles says that it should be obvious who's attacking, and so they then broadcast the exposition to us, but also the crew, and they say all of the following, but told better than I'm sure I'm about to tell it. There was a big war between the Romulan Empire and the Earth Federation roughly 100 years prior to as we are seeing it now. The bases that are being attacked are floating on asteroids that are bordering and set up to monitor the neutral zone between Earth Federation space and the Romulan Empire's space territory.
The neutral zone is basically just a big border.
Yeah.
As illustrated in what appears to be an MS Paint drawn map we are shown.
Yeah, it does not look great. I had this thought, and I'm not a spaceman, but I was like, not defending borders, but like even identifying borders in space must be pretty tough.
Yeah, well, definitely. I think it's supposed to theoretically work the same way as borders, like maritime borders in the ocean. Because what is Starfleet if not the Navy?
Right. But wouldn't it also have to be like a bubble? Because space is fully 3-dimensional.
They just get everything over there. They can go as high as they want. They just can't come to the
go and low as Yeah. But it's like, so is it just? But there is no up and down in space. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So how is it? Because like, what if the what if on Earth our North Pole, as we have identified it, points in a different direction than what north on Romulus, the Romulan homeworld, points?
Yeah. Well, now you're asking why when ships meet in Star Trek, why one's never upside down, and I can't answer that for you.
To be fair, we see this ship a couple of times, and it might be upside down. I don't know. What else is told here? Yeah, so the bases are monitoring the neutral zone. That was established at through a treaty that was signed at the end of the conflict. Now, another interesting thing that they point out here, which feels kind of pointless, but whatever, is that somehow during the war they were not able to communicate in any kind of visual way, so we don't know what Romulans look like at this point. We as Earth Federation soldiers do not know what Vulcans or what
it was an entirely like space-fared war.
Yeah.
And no, they weren't calling each other back then, trying to figure out what you look like, or at the very least, can we stop fighting? They did at one point, they mentioned break down like a treaty kind of thing through radio waves. They were like,
yeah,
you stay on this side of this line, we'll stay on this side of this line, and then we'll all stop dying.
Yeah, so I guess that
did happen eventually.
But
that's how the neutral zone was created.
Yeah. But then Kirk like goes, but I think it's Spock giving the speech actually. He's like, but they're super evil and definitely warlike. And he goes, and we can only assume what they think of us, basically. Which is, I think, a funny way to be like, we think they're terrible, and I'm sure they think we're terrible. Like, it's a good way to like acknowledge that.
But we're not terrible. We're fine.
We're not terrible. We've never done anything wrong. We are so good.
We're good.
But the guy Styles says that they can. Sorry. First, Kirk goes over the speaker again, and he's like, "Hey, just so you know, we can't start a war here, and so those bases and us are expendable if it comes to that in order to stop an intergalactic war."
Part of
which
the
is, I
job.
think, frankly, not a great thing to say over the loudspeaker, even if it is true. And secondly, the Styles then, because they were like, how are we going to be able to identify a Romulan ship or whatever? And he's like, they're painted up like a bird of prey. And then I remembered that Romulan ships are called birds of prey. And I've heard that somewhere. So,
Yeah,
so then
and
for
it
the
gets
rest of my notes, say
confusing.
it.
It gets confusing in Star Trek because later when we get to Klingons, Klingon ships are called warbirds.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of birds in space.
I guess so. I will say, apparently, the design that I had thought of a Romulan bird of prey is not the TOS version, because the version we see here, and we'll get to it in a minute here, I think looks pretty dumb.
Uh,
I don't like the way
uh,
this bird of prey looks.
I feel like it was made to almost kind of look like an evil version of the Enterprise.
I Yeah, I guess. I actually don't even necessarily think it looks evil. I think it's just basically like, I mean, we'll just
Well,
talk about it now.
w-
It's basically just
we're
like a
supposed to
weird
think they
oval
are.
with like two little engine pods coming off of it, which I guess does make it in that way similar to the Enterprise, although the Enterprise is more saucer shaped and has like the whole body with it. But then because it's painted like a bird of prey, it's not painted with like a cool bird of prey. It's like a cartoon like coloring book like bottom of a hawk that they've just like stuck on this thing. I don't think it looks good.
It's so that
And also, there's hawks on Romulus.
no, it's they do that because predators from beneath, if they look up, they'll think, "Oh, it's a hawk. I can't go get that."
Oh, it's just one of those giant space hawks, like from
Yeah,
Star Trek.
yeah. That you know what? That you raise a good question. I wonder what that looked like originally, because this is obviously like a remastered touch-up
Oh
thing.
yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Is like,
Let's
did it
see.
look like that, or is this a George Lucas redo where they stuck a weird screaming
Well,
scene
last
alien?
time we had that question, it was about
There was the
Clint
balls.
Howard's ship,
Yeah, Clint Howard's
and
balls.
it looked more or less exactly the same, just more high def.
Yeah, which is probably what it is here. It seems like that's generally how they have been handling this, which is good. I prefer that over the George Lucas thing for sure. The Navigator Styles, he says that he has a family history with the Romulans where apparently multiple of his ancestors were killed in the Romulan conflict. I actually don't know if they give that war a specific name in this, but he says that he has lost multiple ancestors as a part of that
Yeah,
kerfuffle.
there's a character exactly like the Styles guy in the video game Mass Effect, where he's like, I don't trust aliens because I'm racist because of a war that my great grandpappy fought in. And you're like, shut up. He's like, I don't like turning. We're getting off topic here.
Oh,
What's his name? Is his name not Wesley?
I want to say it's like Presley.
Presley. Navigator Presley in Mass Effect. God, I can't wait to see if this stays in. Yeah, no, he's like, I hate me some aliens, and I'll never trust aliens. Then you say, shut up, Presley.
Yeah,
And then he's
and then
like,
he
oh, I'm
dies,
sorry, I like aliens now. And then he dies.
and he dies super hard. Um, so as they get closer to Earth Base 4, they confirm that the bases and the asteroids that they were on are completely destroyed. They are described as rubble, which is wild. At this point, I am now curious as to why the Enterprise is the only ship in the area. If multiple bases are going missing, why is the Enterprise the only one that is there? Especially because it's like, if their whole job is we're seeking out new cultures, well, how are they the closest one to a defined border? Because we know what's over there. Their job is not to go. They can't go there. So where were they that they were the closest ship to respond to this?
They get around.
Apparently so. They arm up all the battle stations, which is kind of cool because I think this is the first time where it was like, we're gonna do war. We're gonna do
Yeah.
war real fast.
This is the first time that we hit what Star Trek I think is generally renowned for in its big action episodes, and it's submarine warfare.
Yeah, it feels, specifically the Romulan ship feels very submarine.
Yeah, I think that's on purpose too.
Yeah.
They're all like huddled around one thing as if it was what's the periscope, right? I mean, they don't
Yeah.
literally
They
have
they
one,
don't
but
have a periscope, but it's
that,
like it looks like
that's what
one.
it's like.
Yeah. As they arm up the battle stations, it cuts down to engineering, and we see the little happy couple from the wedding earlier, and this is where we learn that they are engineering, that they are in engineering. But then there's also like potentially a problematic little
Oh,
line.
I wrote that down in my notes. You
Yeah,
better believe.
where the guy's like, "I'm still your commanding officer" or something. Like, I'm still your superior.
I
And
think I
it's like,
yelled out loud. I was like,
hmm,
"Whoa,
hmm,
yo,
all right,
the
Okay.
You're marrying your superior
A
officer,
little bit of a
the
power
man.
dynamic here that I don't necessarily appreciate. But hey, I guess love is love. You're stuck on a ship for 5 years. You're gonna meet somebody.
Sure, she didn't seem that upset about it, but
No. So I don't know, but
a little
it is
suspicious.
definitely weird.
Definitely, you could pop an eyebrow at it for sure.
I certainly did. I went, so four calls them. I've just been putting the numbers for the bases in all my notes. So if
Yeah,
I just say four, just know that I mean Earth base four. I'm not going to say that every time. It's a mouthful.
yeah.
So four calls them and says that 2, 3, and 8 have all gone silent, and that they were hit. They four were hit, but that they survived because they got enough of a warning beforehand. But he comes over the screen and he shows them that like he is visibly burnt and everything behind him is like destroyed, and he's like, we are a mile deep inside an asteroid that is made of iron,
Yeah,
and we had our
yeah.
deflectors up at full blast, and this is how we are.
He's cooked. These guys are scary.
So the Romulans immediately established to be like biggest dickus. Do not
Oh
mess
yeah.
with the Romulans.
Well, that's very interesting right off the bat, because we're shown and told throughout what we've seen so far that Kirk and the Enterprise and Starfleet in general they try to be a very diplomatic group. Like we
Generally, yeah,
want to talk things out. We're not fighters. That's well, I mean, we'll fight to defend ourselves if we have to, of course, but that's
right,
not our first move. And then to parallel that against a like a warmongering race, like we will shoot first and then shoot second and then maybe ask questions
yeah.
before we shoot you a third time.
Well, and to Kirk's, I almost said credit. I don't know if that's the right word here, but to sort of solidify that point, Kirk, who is typically very against immediately getting into combat, the second he's like even suspicious that it could be Romulans, he's like full charge all the guns. I want those guns
Yeah,
ready to go. Because like the Romulans are, if it is the Romulans, we gotta be ready. We gotta know,
make sure. Yeah, absolutely.
which is pretty cool. So a ship appears and destroys four. They literally become invisible, shoot this big like orange but very orangey red. It kind of just looks like sort of a fart cloud. I don't think the effect on it is particularly spooky, but it gets the point across.
It's supposed to look like a big like massive ball of plasma, I think.
Yeah. I don't know that it necessarily reads as that when we see it, but it's fine. It's
Yeah,
not like bad. It just like I don't know. It's like one of my minor nitpicks with this episode.
sure. I think
Um,
that's another credit to the show, even though they updated a bunch of effects, they didn't go crazy.
yes, it still
Because
feels
like
like the show from the
they
'60s, which is
they
good.
they definitely could have touched this up a bunch and made it look
Oh yeah,
like a massive plasma torpedo thing, but they
yeah,
didn't, and I actually appreciate
I
that.
do. I absolutely appreciate that. Yeah, I think that that's very good of them. So four gets destroyed. We actually see the guy from four like basically throw himself to the ground, and then the feed cuts off because that's how we show that the base gets exploded.
Yeah, it did.
But they theorized that they had to become visible to shoot because being invisible apparently takes a ton of power, and then also that while they're invisible, they might also not be able to like read where the Enterprise is or something. Like their sensors will be weaker, and so they're able to. Kirk gives an order to sort of echo the Romulan ship, which they can like sort of tell where it is because they can like pick up they get like a general area of where it is because they have the ability to pick up like the engines of it, basically. Even though they can't physically see it, they are able to tell like a general area where it is. Is this
Right.
making sense? Am I saying this in a way that makes any sense?
I think
It's
so.
basically like they can't see it, but like they hear the engines, even though there's no sound in space, but like effectively that, like their sensors can hear the engines over
Yeah.
there. So they're like, okay, so we know the direction that they're going. They're heading back towards the neutral zone. Spock actually makes a point of saying it's exactly what a Romulan ship would do. So we should echo them because if their sensors are depowered or whatever, then we'll just look like a reflection of them to their sensors,
Yeah.
and they may not immediately like clock us as an enemy. So immediately we're going into like strategy mode. The navigator Styles warns Kirk that he because Kirk is like, okay, we're not in combat right now. Let's like take off the alert. We can just do whatever. And Styles is like, don't. And then he says there might be Romulan spies on the ship, which then Sulu and Spock both agree with, which is crazy because we don't know what Romulans look like. So it's the assumption
Yeah.
that they probably look like either mostly like humans or can make themselves look like humans. And then it also makes me think like Were there Romulan spies during the conflict that we never found out about? Because if there were, how do we not know what they look like?
Yeah, so in a narrative sense, the reason that idea was floated is answered really soon, as to
Right.
mistrust of a certain character.
But we shouldn't
But
know that, and Styles shouldn't know that.
yeah, and I think in this moment they're just thinking like, well, we have beaming technology. What if their gun technology and their cloaking technology is so much more advanced than ours? What if they have advanced beaming technology that they could have beamed here and no one would have noticed?
Yeah.
Which, yeah, so not necessarily to imply that there were Romulan spies back then, since nobody of record knows what Romulans looked like.
True.
But like maybe it's happening now. Maybe somebody's here.
That's an interesting point because you said anyone of record. So it would potentially be possible that Romulan spies infiltrated a ship and then blew it up, but there was no one alive to
Yeah,
record what they
it's
looked like, but
definitely
was able to
possible.
say like the Romulans are here, like the Romulans,
And
like they were able to say that there were spies, but weren't able to say what they
yeah,
looked like. You know what I mean?
and I can almost bet or guarantee that there's some Romulan episode from a show later, whether it be, one of the newer ones like Strange New World or Discovery,
Right.
that completely contradict this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like I bet there's like Romulans bopping all around in that show.
Probably. Either way, Uhura picks up a communication from the Romulan ship that seems to have been sent on accident. And it's weird because she says it's a communication, or she says it's like a frequency, a signal, or whatever. But they don't actually like get a message. Like no one says anything. They're just able to get footage of what the Romulans look like onto
They
their
left their
screen.
laptop camera on.
Yeah. They thought they logged out of the Zoom call before they started jorking it, but
Mhm.
oops, they're still here. And they get to see what Romulans this is the first time the Romulans and humans have presumably ever seen each other, and we get to see that they look just like Vulcans.
They look like Spock.
Except here's the thing: I also think that very specifically the commander of the Romulan ship looks a
Yeah.
lot like Styles, like in like face structure and even the haircut. Honestly, I think he, with the exception of the ears, looks more like Styles than he looks like Spock, and I don't know if that's intentional.
Ooh. Ooh. I don't think it is. But here's what I could tell you. One of my facts about this episode, which fans of Star Trek would know this coming in. So the guy that plays the Romulan commander, his name is Mark Leonard. He's in a bunch of stuff. What I immediately clocked him as is he's most famous for playing a different role in Star Trek, and that is Spock's father, Sarek.
No way. So he's going to show up
Yeah,
in a couple episodes as
he
himself,
comes
as a different
back.
guy.
He comes back in another episode. I don't know how many times he shows up in TOS. He comes back in another episode for sure, but then he's in some of the movies
Mm,
when we go to Vulcan and Spock has interactions with his
yeah,
father,
that's
Sarek.
extra funny because the when in the Clint Howard episode, Spock had said that was his name Baltrock, whatever the
Yeah,
Squidward. He said that he
yeah.
reminded him of his dad.
And
So
now
it's like,
here we
and
are.
now his dad is here. What 3 episodes later? 2 episodes later? So we get a commercial break, and when we come back, everyone's looking sideways at Spock. Everyone's like,
Oh man, yeah. Well, I also want to say that Spock's reaction to himself is
yeah,
so great
he's like
because
surprised, but also maybe a little disappointed.
he does stand up, but he doesn't like his jaw doesn't drop or anything. He just pops the Vulcan eyebrow like, "Well, I
Yeah.
didn't expect this."
Oh my.
But you can immediately tell that Styles is like ready to start some race-based violence
Well, and
against Spock.
yeah, he immediately says something like, because they start like intercepting something else, and he's like, "Ooh, give it to Spock," and Kirk calls him out
Yeah,
on that. To which I was like, okay, yes, that's the correct way to handle it.
but
But why does Bones get the V pass? Like, why does he get to talk shit about Vulcans
I
constant?
I wrote this down because yes, obviously, Bones says shit all the time.
Is it because
That
we're friends?
and Uhura was like teasing Spock in like the first couple episodes,
Said he looked like a devil.
and I think even Kirk at one point says like, "Oh, you Vulcan, whatever."
Yeah.
But I wrote in my notes, I was like, Kirk lays down the law. Only main cast members get to be racist to
Yeah.
Spock.
You got to be in 3 episodes before you're allowed to say the V word.
That's
Anyway,
good stuff.
the bird of prey appears in front of them. The Romulan ship appears, And here's where I wrote in my notes: has a stupid looking bird on it. And then I wrote,
Yeah.
I am now completely unintimidated by the Romulans because of the state of this bird.
No, don't be unintimidated. They got a big plasma gun.
They do got a big plasma gun.
If you're gonna be unintimidated by anything, be unintimidated by their little helmets.
The helmets are goofy. So the Romulans are
They
all
they
wearing,
look
with the
they
exception
look
of the
like
commander.
they look like I promise I won't reference this often.
Okay.
Rick and Morty, you know the bird guy, bird person. He wears a little helmet like this.
I've never really watched Rick and Morty, so no, I don't know. But
Oh,
the
okay.
audience
There's a
might. So
guy.
hey, there you go. There you go, guys. That's one for
There's
you.
a guy. I bet it's a direct thing. But you know what? My other note, my other trivia fact, which I could spend now because it's apt to the conversation, is
Yeah.
about those helmets.
Okay.
Okay, so because of budgetary and time constraints, because apparently putting on those Vulcan slash Romulan ears
Takes a minute.
takes a lot more time than you'd think. They don't just
Yeah.
stick them on, and because they do makeup blending to make them look as natural as possible, I suppose. And then you have to do eyebrows, and maybe they tweaked his like they put some makeup on his
Sure.
nose or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
But because of time constraints, they were like, putting on these ears takes way too long, so they just did it to the
Cover the ears
commander
for the other
and that
guys.
other guy, and then they
The
came up with these
Centurion.
dumb little helmets
Yeah.
to stick on them to be like, all right, that you're good.
I mean,
Everything else works.
it's kind of clever. I mean, I wish the helmets looked cooler, but yeah, that's kind of clever.
I
I
mean,
get
I
that.
don't, I don't think these in the future when we deal with Romulans, we don't see these helmets that often. I don't think. I might be completely wrong about
Yeah.
that.
So do the Romulans stay so heavily Roman throughout the rest of Star Trek?
Do you mean that in the sense of like their like battle sashes
I
and
mean
their
everything.
what's their stick
So
and the name of their planet
the
and
name of their planet is Romulus. Honestly, there's a lot of Roman, specifically Roman, not even Greek, like mythology showing up in this show already. Vulcan,
yeah,
obviously, is
yeah.
the Roman name for Hephaestus, the god of the forge. Then you got
Mm.
Romulus, which is one of the like I don't think he's a
Romulus
god.
and
Romulus and
no,
Remus though
Romulus and Remus were the
are
brothers raised by wolves who founded the city of Rome, right?
yes, yeah. And then on top of that, you have for the way that they're dressed is very Roman. They've got the sashes, even the coloring, the like purple, gold, and red is
Mm,
very Roman.
mm.
The haircuts are very Roman. And then I don't remember the like designation of the commander. I wrote him as the commander in my notes the whole time, but I'm sure that
I
they
think
said
that's
what
what
he's
he's
actually
credited
called.
as.
Oh,
I think
okay.
he's credited as Romulan commander.
But the older man who's on the ship is called a centurion,
Yeah, okay,
which
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
there you
then
go.
and then the like goon guy who's on the ship keeps talking about
The
how he's
Praetor.
returning, yeah, he's like returning messages to the Praetor. And
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, so there's we're this is they are the space Romans. They are the holy
Yeah.
Romulan Empire.
Yeah, it's kind
That's
of
what
cool.
we're doing here. And so it was like, and one of the things that's 1 second from now, basically in the recap, is that Spock is like, I guess that there's some kind of like they're a spin-off of the Vulcans from back when we were warlike before we like did the
Sure.
get rid of our emotions thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so
because
that makes sense why they both
I
have like Roman verbiage in their
I
stuff.
I believe the reveal that the commander looks like a Vulcan, Romulans look like Vulcans, is like a straight up reveal that like Vulcans and Romulans are like cousin species. Like they are
Yeah.
directly related, linked.
So are they?
And they just split off.
Is it to the point where like they are the same species but they are different cultures? Is that what we're at?
Um well, I don't know because I don't remember how long ago they split off.
I guess that's fair. If like a lot of
And then they
evolution or something
did.
had happened.
Yeah, obviously the Vulcan. They're so for all intents and purposes, they are two different species,
Okay,
but they're related,
gotcha,
I guess. And
gotcha,
then
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
Vulcans are like, we're not angry anymore, and Romulans are like, we're fucking
We're
angry all the
super
time.
angry. We'll take that anger
Yeah,
actually, and we'll be angry for both of us.
yeah.
Um.
Yeah. So to answer your Roman question, I don't actually know.
Okay.
I think they might stick with this Roman stuff for a while, but when it comes to new Trek, again, I don't know if Romulans are showing up in the newer shows, but
Yeah.
in the 2009 J.J. Abrams movie, Romulans are the bad guys, and they're more or less just like blue collar workers on a trash ship and they're not Roman at
I
all.
do vaguely remember that. Yeah, they're definitely
Yeah,
not Roman there.
but I guess they wouldn't be in the 2009 J.J. Abrams reboot movie, would they?
Yeah, I guess not. It does feel like it in this. It feels like being Roman is like kind of their whole thing.
And it's cool.
Yeah, Romans are cool. I mean, famously, apparently, men think about the Roman Empire all the time. I don't, but apparently, other people do. More importantly,
Romulans play Ultramarines, is
they
what
play
you're saying.
Ultramarines. They do. Yeah. But no, we get something cool here, which is we get to see on the Bird of Prey, and we get to see their point of view from the Romulan commander, which is weird because it doesn't like necessarily make them out to be good guys, but we do get to see sort of a sympathetic side of them still doing evil things. Like they're going out and killing people, seemingly mostly for fun or to like test a weapon.
They are in the context of this episode at the very least, and a lot of Star Trek. They are the bad guys, but we're seeing their day-to-day point of view. I don't know. It's cool to get personal with the bad guys every once in a while.
Yeah. So on the Romulan ship, on the Bird of Prey, the commander sees the reflection and immediately is like, "No, that's a ship. That's not a reflection." Like the guy's like, "Oh, there's just a reflection of us," and he's like, "No, that's a ship. They called out. Idiot. That's a ship. That's definitely a guy." Yeah. So he's like on top of it, and then he also immediately demotes a guy for having broadcast the signal that Uhura intercepted that let them see that they were there. He demotes him 2 ranks.
Other spacefaring bad guys would have killed him.
Would have immediately killed him. Yeah,
we'll take that.
Klingons would have eaten him.
Darth Vader would have just choked him.
Yeah, I might have choked him, to be honest. The commander seems like, what I wrote is he seems like Romulan Pike in that he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm sick of war. This sucks, dude.
Yeah, he's old and tired.
But it's weird to me because he seems like exhausted of war, but I'm like, the war's been over for 100 years.
Well,
so they must be fighting somebody else.
For the Federation.
Yeah, that's exactly. Are they
the
like
Romulans,
currently in a war?
The Romulans have been
the Borg or
staying angry this whole time.
Yeah.
So I think they've just been on their side stewing, and then like their guns are hot for anything that drift into or close to the neutral zone.
Yes,
and they just also finally caught the attention.
Yeah, and assuming that the Romulans live as long as Vulcans, because don't they live like multiple hundreds of years? Like this guy, and certainly the older guy, the Centurion, were probably alive during that war.
Yeah, you know what? Let's look up Romulan lifespan.
Because I know Spock lives to be like at least 200, right?
Romulan lifespan typically around 200 years.
Okay. So yeah, he looks like he's probably middle-aged, so he's probably alive.
Expectancy of 250.
And the old guy is, old, so he definitely fought the Federation before, or like was alive during that war at least. Anyway.
Yeah, so Vulcans can live over 200. Romulans apparently can live to be about 250.
The hate keeps them alive, extra
long. The hate keeps you going. That's how Darth Maul survived his whole thing.
That's literally true. Back on the Enterprise, they go into the thinking chamber, the war room, and Spock shows them a chunk of cast rhodinium or rhodium. I didn't catch it when he said it, and I didn't go back to make sure it was correct.
Space metal.
No, if it's rhodium, it's a real metal. But they're like, it's the hardest thing known to our science, and then he crushes it in his hand, and he's like, their plasma made it shitty. It made it real bad, and now it sucks.
No, he shouldn't have said that, because I would have been like, wow, Spock's really strong.
Spock is really handsome all of a sudden. Styles like flinches, his butthole puckers. But so then they're like, okay, so the reason that the bases were destroyed that far underground was because it like did something to the asteroids that made them weaker, and then they like imploded under their own weight, basically. Which is a cool way of saying it, because they could have just been like, "Nah, it's a big gun," but they decided to like come up with a specific reason that it worked, which I think is neat.
When Star Trek leans into the science of science fiction, that's when things get really cool.
Yeah, and then Styles starts talking a lot of trash, and he's like, "We gotta kill them before they get to the neutral zone. Like, we can't run away, or they'll kill us. We can't let them get back, or they'll tell them that we're weak, and then it'll be a war." And weirdly, Spock's like, yeah, I agree. We got to kill these dudes. They can't go home. The only one who dissents really is Bones. And he's like, come on, man. We don't got to. And everyone else in the entire room who speaks, because I think Sulu's there and he doesn't say anything, is just like, we should kill these. Hey, man, let's kill these honky.
Yeah. Hey, bro. Kill this honky bitch.
Kill this honky bitch.
I mean, they should probably kill him, though. Right?
They should probably kill him, yeah.
At this point.
I mean, they've blown up 3 or 4 bases. So like, yeah, no, they got to go for sure. They got
I
to go.
don't care. I don't care for Mr. Styles' tone,
But he
but
is
what he's
right.
saying is true.
Yeah,
If we run away, or if they kill us, or if we just let them leave, like they go straight back to the Romulan Empire and say, we did a whole bunch of shit on the other side of the border and
they didn't do
nobody tried to
nothing.
stop us, and then they thought they could try to stop us, and then we kicked their asses, so let's
Hmm.
just go invade. So we it is now like entirely on the Enterprise to
Stop war from
stop
happening.
that from happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So then they find out that the ship is heading in the direction of a comet, and they're like, well, even though it's invisible, it's going to go through the trail behind the comet, and when it does that, it'll leave like a trail basically through it, and then we'll be able to more accurately shoot them. So they're like, cool, let's do that. And they arm up, and we get a commercial break. And when we get back, they're back in the bridge, and he's like, the second they hit the trail, blast them. The
Yeah,
second we have
absolutely.
like a lock on where they are, blow these dudes out of the sky. We cut back to the bird of prey, and they sort of catch on to this, and their plan is like that they're gonna like hit the thing so that they become visible, so that they like lure them in, and then they'll spin around really fast and shoot them like as soon as they hit it. So like they'll be firing before the Enterprise basically.
Mhm.
But the Enterprise isn't following them directly. It like moves a different way that surprises them, and so he goes like, "No, stop!" And he like pulls out immediately, and it's this whole like crazy. They like barely miss going into the field, the like trail behind it, and the Enterprise is expecting them to go through it, and so they pass all the way through it themselves and never see the Romulan ship. And so it's just like this like cat and mouse. It is a submarine battle, is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Kirk goes, all right, screw it, just blast them anyway. And so they shoot at the they shoot at the
Yeah.
spot where like the engine signal whatever is coming from, and they seem to hit decently well because the ship
To
like
be
shakes super hard
yeah.
and like things fall, and the Centurion dies.
Yeah, there you go. So they must have hit him at least once. When it starts happening, you're thinking like they might not be hitting him, but they're hitting around him and it's jostling the ship a
Yeah,
bunch, but
like a
we
torpedo.
we we kill the old dude. So
For some reason, doing so causes part of the Enterprise to start sparking. Like they haven't been hit by the Romulans at this point. They get hit a little bit later. But part of the Enterprise underneath Spock's terminal starts sparking, and so he has to like dive and fix it. I'm curious as to why that happened. I don't really understand that part.
just like overpowering our weapon systems shorted something out.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, the bird of prey immediately fires back on them, and for some reason, they decide to avoid it by going straight backwards at full speed, the Enterprise, instead of going at like an angle to get away from it. And so the only reason that they survive is because it like dissipates enough by the time it hits them that it doesn't kill them. Although they do say they come with a speaker afterwards and they're like, there's been 22 casualties, but that also gets like retro what's it called, retconned by the end of this
Yeah.
episode, which is weird.
Does it?
Yeah, because they say
Oh,
because here they say that I won't spoil anything, but here they say that there's 22 casualties, and at the end they say, and we only lost one guy.
well, is that one guy after the 22? Like we only lost that one guy in the most recent instance.
Well, but the most recent instant, like they only get hit once.
Something else happens because we see the
Oh,
guy
sorry.
again.
No, you're
He
right.
doesn't die here.
This isn't the thing that kills. Well, this isn't the thing that kills the 22 people.
Oh, is it not?
No, 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 no.
Where
So
do we hear the 22 people?
okay. So this happens. They back up out of it. They barely get hit by it, so they like shake super hard. And for some reason, Rand is on the bridge and she's like hugging Kirk, which I was like, that's weird given what we know about what's happening behind the scenes. I'm sure surprised that she's still on the show at this point. Then
Must have been production date. Like she might, like this was earlier.
yeah.
Because
So
we have a new yeoman in the next one. I don't know
we
how
do.
much more Rand we get.
Probably very little. The Romulan ship starts moving away again after they shoot because they're like, that'll fix them. So the Enterprise starts mirroring them again. And we cut back to the bird of prey where the old man is hurt. He ends up dying. So the commander orders them to load all the debris into like the pods basically and launch it so that it looks like they got blown up because the Enterprise shoots again. So they launch all this debris, including the Centurion's body, into space.
So good. They they just launch the body. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Sorry, old friend.
So then Spock picks up and he's like, "Oh,
But this will
there's a
fool
body
him."
in the space." in space.
Um,
And Kirk doesn't
it
buy it.
is
They shoot
funnier that
again.
yeah that they didn't buy it.
Yeah.
It reminded me of I won't go into too many spoilers about a movie from like 2005, just in case anyone hasn't seen it. But it reminded
Mhm.
me of the bit in the end of Serenity where they're hoisting bodies up onto their ship.
Oh yeah. And there's the like blooper or whatever where he's like, put Shepherd Book right in the front, stick him right up
Yeah,
on there.
yeah, yeah.
So they do the debris trick twice. They do it the first time with the Centurion's body in it, and it doesn't work. So they shoot again, and then they launch more debris. But the second time that they launch the debris, they put a nuke in it.
Yeah, they mentioned earlier that the war 100 years ago that we were fighting in space. We also used old style nuclear warheads, which is crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I actually skipped something here. So
Did you?
between the two bursts of debris, 9 hours pass
That's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
We
they want to pretend that they've blown up. So when they launch the first thing of debris, they cut their engines because that's what the only thing that the Enterprise can track. And so we sit here for 9 hours of just sitting there, Red October style, waiting for the other to do
and
something.
the Enterprise turns off all their shit to pretend like they left.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, because they can't see really either when they're invisible, apparently.
Yeah, they definitely don't want to get like sneak attacked. So yeah, it's just a game of waiting,
Yeah,
which
and
is kind of fun.
while they're waiting, Kirk goes back to his room, and I'm like, wow, it must be way easier to wait on the Enterprise than it is to wait on this Romulan bird of prey because it looks way more comfortable. But
Probably.
Bones comes in and he's like, he basically tells Kirk that they're not really expendable. He's like, the universe is ever expanding and damn near infinite, and but in all of it, there's only one James Kirk, so you have to protect him. And I think it's a really good line. I think it's a really good thing to say to your friend.
Love when we see the blossoming friendships.
Spock finishes fixing the thing that was sparking earlier, but when he gets up, he actually hits a console, and that's how the Romulans see them. But
Yeah,
the commander is scared of Kirk, so they, instead of shooting again, they do a second burst of the debris stuff, and this is where the nuke comes in. They launch a nuke in it, and the Enterprise is able to scan the debris, and Spock says, and something wrapped in metal or something like, and it's something encased in metal. And
mhm,
Kirk is like, and shoots it because I guess he knows it's a bomb and he doesn't want it to get closer. So they shoot it immediately. It blows
right.
up, shakes both ships, and this is where 22 people apparently die.
I see.
And
I
they're
see. I
because they
see.
say largely on the people who are on the outer parts of the ship, who are suffering from radiation burns, which is, and that's where I was thinking, because I think that they missay casualties here. I don't think 22 people actually die. I think 22
Like
people are injured.
injuries,
Yeah,
22 injuries.
because
That's
it's
entirely
radiation
possible.
burns and not like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So I don't know, because they
Um,
do at the end of the sort of contradict it.
there is a point as well where Styles gets up and leaves the bridge,
Yeah, to go down to weapons to replace somebody who got hurt.
and Kirk says, "Uhura, take over navigation." And I'm like, "Uhura can do navigation?
She can do everything. She's a woman of many
That's
talents.
cool." She and also her uniform is getting shorter.
I agree. Not as short
She's
as well, we'll see.
in this episode. She stands up and like her full butt is just on TV in the 60s. What's going on?
Maybe the TVs were so bad you couldn't tell back then.
This is why Martin Luther King was like, "You need to stay on the show."
Oh no.
My man knew what he was talking about.
So after the nuke goes off, they play dead again. Like the Enterprise now plays dead to lure them in, and it works because the other guys on the ship are like, we should go finish them off, and the commander is afraid of them. Is like not afraid, but he's I think aware that it's a ruse, or like concerned that it's a ruse. Fear is, I don't think, the right word for it, but he basically thinks it's a bad idea. He goes to, so they go and they like line up to take a shot, and they become visible again, and Kirk's like, fire, like it worked, we lured him in, shoot at him. But down in weapons there's a gas leak, and the guy who was getting married earlier in Styles had been knocked out by gas.
Yeah.
So Spock runs in, saves the day, drags out apparently just Styles, and then hits the shoot button. They shoot the Romulan ship, damage it enough that it's not blown up, but inoperational. They have won the fight. At which point the Romulans call over, or I think Kirk calls them. Not that it matters, but he's like, "All right,
Yeah.
like you lost. We're ready to beam your survivors over." And the Romulan commander's like, "We don't do that. That's not a thing
Nah,
for
man,
us.
I'm
I'm
done.
sorry." Like,
This is
our whole
This is
culture.
called the Romulan retirement plan.
Yeah, and he blows up the ship because their whole culture is like it's a very warlike culture. They will not be taken prisoner apparently,
And
and so they blow
he
themselves
does
up.
this cool speech to Kirk where he's like, "You got me. You're cool.
Yeah, we would have been friends in a different lifetime.
You have my respect. Like you're the guy that killed me, and that makes you like my friend, kinda."
Yeah,
Which is so interesting, especially like for this. I mean, in science fiction and space fantasy, we get a lot of that now. Like the warfaring culture, even regular fantasy, like the glorious d- death on the battlefield type thing.
hmm
This is what 50 years ago,
yeah,
60
60
years
years
ago,
ago.
60 years ago. That's kind of cool.
But in Medbay, Styles wakes back up, and we have cured racism slightly. Where he's like, "No, Spock saved me. He's a cool, good dude. Like, I'm sorry, I was wrong about that."
All it takes to cure racism is to save someone's life.
Yeah, and this is where they say that only one person died, and here I finally wrote down his name. It's Tomlinson, who was the groom from the beginning.
No,
So
tragic.
they're like only one person died. So I do think the 22 casualties was just they meant 22 hurt people
All
because
right,
they
before we get
specify one
yeah,
person.
before we get to this next part, I just want to say I love this episode. This was so cool,
Yeah.
so dramatic, so tense. And
Oh, are you saying because this last scene is like a little
had
creepy and
had
bad?
casualties on both sides.
Yeah.
So Kirk is like the guy that was getting married just died,
Yeah.
and then we hard cut to the bride
Back in the
crying
chapel.
in the chapel, and the door opens, and there's our sexy Kirk.
There's our
He's
sexy
like,
Kirk.
"Did I hear there's a newly single woman on the ship?"
Ooh, I love a divorcee. And then she like hugs him too. But the weirdest part to me about this scene is that she's like, "I'm okay." Like, you don't have to be. Your
No,
husband died 6 minutes ago.
she is okay. She's in the next episode we're about to talk about, and she is hugging onto a different guy.
Is that the same actress? I
Yeah, it
thought.
is. It
Oh my god, I
legitimately
thought they looked
is.
the same, but I was like, maybe I'm just racist to space white women.
No, you're allowed to be if that was the case, but no,
Oh.
it's legitimately the same lady.
So yeah, so how are you gonna rate this? Our rating system is, of course, we give it either an engage if it's a good episode, or an illogical if it's a bad episode, and I think we've already pretty well covered it. For me, this is pretty easily an engage. I really like this episode. I think it's very good.
This is the such a strong engage. This is undoubtedly my favorite episode we've watched so far.
I'd have to like really think about it, and I haven't put that thought in, but I think I probably agree with you. I think it is
Yeah,
most likely the best episode that we have seen so far. So
really good stuff.
really nothing else to say about it. I love that we get wartime stuff. I think that my favorite part of Star Trek is when it's not about some like almighty god beast. I don't like that generally.
Yeah,
These
yeah,
ones
we
where
do
it's
get that
like
quite a bit.
solving conceivable problems, these ones I like more. So like
Mm.
this, the Conscience of King I liked, although it's not as good of an episode as this, obviously. But I like that. I like ones where it's like there is a thing that we can fight that isn't just like we have to trick God into looking away for a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like fantasy, science fiction, politics is cool sometimes.
It is in
Just
this show, at least so far.
seeing how like this government and this empire like have to interact, have to try to broker peace or go to war or do all this stuff like big stuff is on the line here,
Yeah.
and the Enterprise comes out on top. It's really good.
I think the exact cutoff for me on when a enemy is too powerful in this show is the Telosians. I think that is the exact peak of like that is the amount of like magic power that I think I
Right.
enjoy villains having in this
They're
so far, at least.
they're because like you can understand through an illusion and psychic like way
Yeah.
what their power set is and what their limits are. And you know what they even say like we have a way to block it out, and like you can make me think that, but I'm still gonna punch your head off.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But then we get other guys where they're just like I dream of genie powers and I can
Yeah.
make you disappear if I
Like
want to.
Charlie or something.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway, let's get into the next episode real quick here.
Yeah.
Our final episode of this episode, which is a weird sentence to say, but I've said it already, is episode 16, Shore Leave. This is another iconic
Surely.
episode in that I hear a lot of people talking about this episode, so I was pretty excited when it started up, and as a spoiler, I don't dislike it, but I don't think it's that good of an episode.
No, I don't know if anyone ever said this was a good episode.
Okay. All right. Well, I've definitely heard people
Uh,
talk about it, so I didn't. I guess I just conflated that as like, well, if it's one of the ones people are talking about, it must be good.
I think this one, it starts compared to the last one for sure.
Yeah.
We start very lighthearted, and we're going about our regular spacefaring stuff. Spoilers. We film outside in this episode. Like they clearly found some
They've rented out a park in Arizona, is what I
national
wrote in my.
national park.
Is what I wrote in
You
my
said
notes.
Arizona. I thought like Northern California or
It
something.
could be Northern California. I was bouncing between like Nevada or Arizona, but it's been Northern
Mm,
California or California in general would make more sense. Just knowing
yeah.
like where stuff is filmed.
So because we're filming outside and not on an enclosed like studio set with a bunch of foam rocks, we get some sweeping like camera movements, some more dynamic stuff than we've really seen before. We
Which is
camera
cool.
can go along
Yeah.
as characters are running, which is
Yeah.
fun. But then what the subject matter, it we're going crazy, man. We're dealing
It's
with a
a
lot
it's
of
a little
stuff.
stupid, but we'll get into it. So Shore Leave starts on the Enterprise, as do most episodes, where Kirk's tired and his back hurts, and
Yeah,
he this new woman on the ship, who is we will come to learn is the new yeoman whose name was Darrow.
I don't remember.
Uh, she starts rubbing his back, but Spock is behind him too. So he thinks it's Spock, and then Spock like takes a step in front of him, and he's like, please stop touching me," basically.
Yeah. Ooh, get in there, Mr. Spock.
Get in there,
That's
Mr.
right.
Spock.
Really, really work those nuts out.
If this is
What the
Spock,
hell?
I'm okay with you today.
Oh.
A woman touching me.
A woman? I don't think so.
I only allow my best man to touch me.
Only Spock knows how to get the kinks out.
So Darrow is the first person to say, "Hey, you need a rest. Like we you got to take a break, my guy." And he's just like, "I get enough of that from Bones." And then down on the planet, because we're orbiting a planet, Bones and Sulu are walking through a park that has been rented out, I guess. And they're like, "Oh, this is." Or Bones is like, "This is great. It's something. It's like something right out of Alice in Wonderland," which is a thing no one's ever said in recorded history
No.
about a
Back then,
field.
back then, people only had like 3 books, and one of them was Alice in Wonderland. So that's his only frame of reference.
Did you
And
know?
by back then, of course, I mean years and years and years in the future.
I won't go too much into the details about this, but did you know that Alice in Wonderland is written as a way for the person to be like anti-math? It's like like the book is about math.
I can't say I've ever read the actual book.
Oh, okay.
What? Wait, what do you mean anti-math? Like he's like it's a bullshit concept.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, I can get down with that.
Yeah.
Probably.
So on the planet, Bones and Sulu are like, it's perfect. There's no people, there's no animals, and Sulu walks off to take a cell sample, I guess, of one of the plants that's behind him.
I
And
liked that because I remember I was
he's the
like,
plant guy.
oh yeah, Sulu's kind of a botanist a little bit.
Yeah, he's got that
Like
hand.
he's a casual botanist. It's just a hobby.
Yeah. So Bones turns around and he sees a man in a big dumb Easter bunny costume
Oh man,
pull out a pocket watch and be like, I'm late, I've got to go.
yeah, that was Alice in Wonderland, all right.
And then Alice runs up and is like, have you seen a rabbit? He's like, and just like points and she runs off.
This is the point. If he had like a cup of coffee or like an alcoholic beverage, this is the part where he would like look at the camera and pour it out on the ground. He'd be like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
done with this.
I just want to point out we're coming off the back of like a pretty intense, like very serious episode about naval combat, and then it's like, and here's Alice in Wonderland. It was whiplash. It was straight up whiplash.
This was now the rabbit is referenced multiple times throughout this episode, but is this the only time we see
This
him?
is the only time that we physically see the rabbit.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So then I'll say
Or
this
Alice.
now. One of my trivia things here is the guy that played the rabbit in the suit. His name is listed here, William Blackburn. Apparently,
Of the Blackburn.
he was a
Montana
professional.
Blackbirds.
He was a professional ice skater in real life.
Why did you get an ice skater to play a rabbit?
I'll tell you why. Because he came with the costume. He got the costume from Ice Capades for free.
That's really funny. We're already saving
Yeah.
money by just shooting this in some field out back, and then on top of that, we got the
Uh,
costume for free.
he was also apparently too claustrophobic to wear it. At one point, he like ripped the head off while filming.
Okay, well, he was only in one scene anyway, so I guess it probably didn't matter that much. He was on screen for like
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
a
What the
total
hell?
of 30 seconds.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why
Yeah,
he's only in one scene because like, you could have put a different guy in it. Like,
yeah.
no,
He could have just done the
the
voice.
insurance says only William Blackburn can wear the rabbit.
This is the Blackburn family legacy. You cannot take it away from him.
Hmm.
So Bones calls
But yeah,
Sulu over. Oh, sorry,
if
go ahead.
if I hadn't have known the rabbit was coming, I would have been like, "What the hell is
Yeah,
this?"
which is what I was like. I was like, why is there a rabbit here? What is happening?
It's interesting that like to me, the Alice in Wonderland White Rabbit thing is the part that I associate with this episode the most, and he's really only here at the beginning. Although I will say, kind of spoilers a little bit.
Yeah.
In the animated series, we come back to this planet and we see the rabbit again.
So Bones calls Sulu over and he's like, do you see them?" Which is weird because A, they're already gone. So there's nothing left to see. But Sulu's like, "Nah, didn't see him," and then we get the intro. And when we come back from the intro, Kirk is doing his captain's log and he's like, he specifically says like the Earth, the planet here is similar to the Earth, but it's the way that we remember the Earth. It is too good to be true. And at that point, I'm like, so is this planet fake? Like, is everything on this planet fake, or the plants fake? And they kind of imply that maybe it is later.
It might be. They're just in a cold, sterile room.
Yeah, like maybe it's just a really big holodeck. The woman who was rubbing his back earlier, Darrow, is the new yeoman. That's where I figured this out. Who says that she didn't see his name on. She's talking to Kirk. She didn't see his name on any of the shore teams, like the shore to go down and do shore leave on this cool planet.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing it." And Spock comes in and he's like, "Yeah, I don't understand why people would want to, if they're trying to rest, why they would waste their energy running around on green grass." I think he specifically says, which is weird.
I'm with Spock on this one.
Yeah, I mean, like, but you could go down and just like relax down there. I'm sure if you're
well,
on a ship for 5 years, you want to get off it every now and then.
Yeah, I would if I was on the Enterprise, I would go.
Yeah.
But it's not relax. Vacations are not relaxing.
I think you're doing vacations wrong, my guy.
Vacations when you go somewhere. It's just like, "Oh, I got to do this." It's kind of high energy. And I mean, even if I personally find travel stressful, whatever, that doesn't matter. For the purpose of going on a vacation, I don't find it that relaxing. You're like, "Oh, that was cool, that was fun."
Yeah.
Then you get home and you're tired.
That's fair. So at this point, Bones calls up and says, "Hey man, I saw the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland," and Kirk thinks he's joking. And that's really the only point of him calling up, I guess. And then Spock tricks Kirk into going down to the planet. So he does this thing where he's like, "There's this crewman who's been having like worse reaction times. He's very tired, and he's refusing to take rest." And the guy's like, and Kirk's like, "Well, I order him to go down to the planet.
You
order
tell
him to do
this
so."
son of a bitch to get his ass on a shuttle and go down to the planet.
What's
He
his
better
name?
take a vacation ASAP. What's his name? Well, I want to know who this bastard is.
Oh, sir, it is James Kirk.
His name is Jim T. Kirk. Oh, you pointy bastard!
And Spock like smirks about it. His human
He's
side
like,
was
"I
like,
got you."
"Got your ass."
He's like, got your ass.
Got
You
your
really thought. Spock's trying to get everybody off the ship so he can do like the risky business slide and dance in the underpants.
He just wants the ship to himself. That's all he's ever
100%.
wanted. Down on the planet, and this is the hardest. This was the most shocking thing to me. Down on the planet, a rock flips up, and there's just a gun under it.
Yeah.
It just flipped up, and there's a revolver under this gun. And I went,
Oh yeah.
"What?"
I mean, sometimes. Ah, yes, the gun harvest is growing beautifully this time of year.
It was insane. So there's two crewmen down on the planet. Oh, who I didn't clock that this woman was the same woman from the last episode, but evidently it is. And some guy whose name I think was like, what was it? Something with E. Emmerich?
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. Well, but his first name was like Emrit.
Bones yells it later.
I'm sure it doesn't matter. We'll just say Rodriguez.
It's Hispanic, whatever it was.
But they're like taking some samples of some plants, and then Kirk and the new yeoman Barrow beam down to the planet, and they're like, "Where are Bones and Sulu?" And they just kind of point them off, and that's genuinely the most impactful thing that they do in this episode. We see them a couple more times, but they really don't do anything. On the way, Darrow and Kirk are talking about how pretty the planet is.
His name was Esteban.
Esteban. This is where I made the note. Darrow is wearing a skirt that is as short as Helen Noel's was, but she's not wearing the shorts underneath, so her butt's just kind of hanging out a little bit.
Yeah,
Her butt's just like kind of out.
we're reaching a precipice with these female uniforms.
A precipice.
Do you take umbrage with the word?
No, I just wanted to put ass in it.
Oh, precipice.
Well, I said precipice.
Precipice.
But yours was better. Precipice is better. I like that better. We'll stick that in. I'll edit it so it makes it sound like I said the smart thing the first time.
But buttipus.
Booty, 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 rocking everywhere. Kirk hears Bones yelling, and he runs over so Bones can be like, "Hey, man, I know you thought I was joking. Here's some big old footprints. There's a Easter bunny running around out here." At which point, Kirk immediately whips out the communicator and cancels Christmas.
He's like, there's a giant rabbit, possibly with a gun. Do not come down to the planet.
Yeah, which is funny because as soon as he says that, a gunshot goes off in the distance, and the three of them, Bones, Kirk, and Darrow, just take off running. And this is where we get that kind of shot that you're talking about, where they're just hauling ass through this like city park somewhere. And I wrote, it's kind of neat. It's cool that we get to see them running. But the downside of it is that when they get to the next scene, they're just gassed. They must have filmed it like immediately afterwards, or just been pretending they were acting that they were still out of breath, which is maybe a weird call.
They were out of breath.
But like specifically, Darrow is like having difficulty getting her lines out as they find Sulu just shooting the gun. He has found the rock revolver and he's just shooting it. And he's like, I always wanted a gun like this. It's a cool gun.
Every time Sulu is like, there's a space disease or some sort of weird thing, he finds a weapon.
Yeah.
And he starts wielding it. Just shooting a gun, which, I guess if you think you're on a planet with nobody else around, shooting the gun into a little lake is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't know specifically what he's shooting at. But we're under the impression that there's no animals on this planet at this point. So it's not like he's shooting at anything living unless he's shooting at one of the other crewmen, which he wouldn't.
I just wouldn't have assumed that Sulu was a gun nut.
Yeah, no, not at all. So the rabbit footprints are here too. So Kirk is like, hey, give me that gun. I'm going to just confiscate that real fast because clearly I can't trust you with it. So he confiscates the gun from Sulu. And then him and Bones start like walking back to the first location that they landed to investigate. And they're just talking a little bit on the way, having like a little bit of a chat. They're talking about like Kirk's old roommate or something from the academy who was a piece of shit. Who was just like a real ass.
He was a real piece of ass.
He's a real piece of ass. I got ass on the mind. And on the way, they or when they get there, they end up seeing two different tracks of footprints. One that is a girl's and one that is the rabbit's. And Kirk's like, I'll follow the girl.
He does. The jokes write themselves.
He's like, I'll follow the small child.
A rat and a little girl, eh?
I made that with a 19-year-old 2 episodes ago.
You follow the rabbit, and I'll. This is terrible. James Kirk is supposed to be a hero.
He doesn't feel like a hero.
I also want to point out that when he's talking about that piece of ass that bullied him,
Finnegan.
He was like he would do the classic pranks. He would put a bucket of water above an open doorway, or he'd put a bowl of cold soup in your bed. And I said, now hang on.
Yeah, the second one.
I've never heard of that one.
The bowl of soup. Yeah, me neither. It sounds awful. Do you put it like on them while they're sleeping so it spills when they wake up, or do you just pour soup on their bed?
No, it has to be like you just put the bowl on top of them so they shift and then it spills. That has to be it.
That's got to be it.
Don't do that. Also, what kind of soup?
Tomato.
That's what I thought too.
It's the most expendable type of soup. So you put that on there. Also, the biggest mess.
Well, I don't know if I'd agree with that, but I think the staining is what you're going for.
Tomato soup is bland. Like you gotta spice that thing up to make it even edible.
You haven't had a good tomato soup then.
The most recent tomato soup I had was at Medieval Times, and that tomato soup was kind of ass.
I thought that tomato soup was popping, to be honest.
What I'll tell you is, me and the 3 people to my left did not really touch it.
That family wasn't even with us.
They were.
That guy had 2 bowls of soup.
They were with me. And no, you got 2 pieces of bread. He didn't want a second piece of soup or bowl of soup.
Okay.
Piece of soup. That's not a thing.
Piece of ass.
Piece of ass. There's his mom's like 95th birthday. Shout out to that guy. You're not listening. Shout out to that guy.
Shout out to the guy at medieval times with your mom celebrating her 95th birthday.
Yeah,
We
hell
were in the
yeah.
black and white section, and he lost. But I met the black and white knight, and he was a cool guy.
He was a
It had
cool
nothing
guy.
to do with Star Trek.
No. But there is a knight in this, so it fits kind of.
There is a knight in this,
Uh,
and I think Kirk kills with the gun.
we'll get there. We'll get there. You're getting ahead of us.
I know.
So
I
they
what happens
start.
next is we find the epic college prankster.
We find the piece of ass Finnegan. Kirk is walking to try and find a girl, and instead he finds a boy, which I think is telling. I think Kirk
A little bit.
secretly a little gay, which is all
He's
right.
having like a homoerotic remembrance of this piece of ass from his
This piece of
college
ass from his
days
college
that would
days, and
that
pair
would
this with the
bully
fact that
him.
he wanted Spock to touch him, but not the very attractive yeoman woman. I think Kirk is secretly gay and hiding it. That's my new theory. We're gonna stick with this one.
Maybe
I think he might be secretly gay.
that's genuinely possible because
He's also wearing a lot of eyeliner. I don't know if that's a
also
tell, but
I also want to point out that this guy who Kirk's was like he was an epic prankster back in the day,
yeah,
and this little leprechaun man shows up and he's like, "Oh, Kirk,
he
it's me, O'Finnegan. It's me, O'Finnegan. I'm the epic japester," and he punches Kirk in the face.
punches him in the mouth, and he's like, "Punch me back! Come on, boyo,
It's like,
punch me back!"
I bet you won't, boyo.
The worst Irish accent I've ever heard in my life, and I just watched Luck of the Irish like a couple weeks ago. Anyway, so that happens, and then he's like, before he can start fighting back, Yeoman Barrow starts screaming her head off over in the distance, so he takes off running, and the piece of ass, I can't
He's
remember
like,
his
I
name.
know you wouldn't.
He's like, "You're a coward, you're running away.
Yeah.
You're after me, Lucky Charms." And he runs over there, he meets Bones on the way, and apparently Yeoman Barrow has had a run-in with a man who was wearing a cloak and had a jeweled dagger. And then Bones is like, "That's Don Juan." And I had to look up who Don Juan was because it's a reference that's a million years old.
A literary character?
He's a literary character who's basically just like a flirtatious Spaniard. Like that's his whole thing, is that he macks on women.
Yeah, and well, he didn't jack on the yeoman. He assaulted her.
Yes,
and ripped her clothes.
He must have been looking for Kirk because he ripped her shoulder out. He ripped her shirt in such a way that the shoulder guy came out.
Foreshadowing for later.
True. But I will note it's weird.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this about Star Trek, a show that I'm enjoying watching. I very much like this show. Star Trek, the original series. If you cannot stop assaulting the young beautiful yeomans, you are not allowed to have them.
Or just
we're going to take the yeomans away.
Or just like women in general, not
having
a great try so far. Honestly, so far the woman with the most, like, I don't know, autonomy is still Helen Noel. She doesn't get assaulted. The worst thing she gets is she gets kissed by a guy who she wants to kiss her because she like brainwashes him into kissing her.
Yeah, and then, so she in her own right is a bit problematic.
She's in her own right, but she has autonomy at least.
Sure.
And then she gets to fight and kill a man and accomplish a task. Like she is so far the only woman on this show to have like done a thing that is of her own will and like is her own realized character. Every other woman so far has just been like a victim or someone to kiss.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Women are gonna be fine.
We got it. In this show, or do we have to wait until next gen?
We have to wait.
Okay.
Captain Catherine Janeway is one of my favorite captains in Star Trek.
I'm told that she commits war crimes.
She might do.
Okay.
She might.
She might do a couple.
None of your business.
All right. No, you're fine. You're fine. Also, Sulu is gone. He was with her earlier, but he's gone because he has chased down Don Juan, apparently.
Well, it's a shame that someone took his gun.
Yeah, he doesn't have a gun, so we can't see, but he is trying to fight him. He's on a bridge right now fighting Don Juan with the rapier from Naked Time, but we don't get to see that. That's off screen.
God, I wish. That's the episode I want to be watching.
Honestly. So Kirk goes to try and find him, and we see that there's like a weird radio thing pointed at Kirk. We're going to see this throughout the rest of the episode, and I probably won't make note of it, but occasionally there's just this weird like radio-looking thing pointed at people, and then immediately after it like spawns a new thing.
It looks like and moves like if like a weird satellite antenna was coming out of R2-D2.
Yeah.
It
absolutely.
Moves around.
So Kirk goes off and he ends up in the sandy part of the park, and he finds a flower and he smiles at it, and then immediately after, this girl called Ruth shows up, who is, I guess, from his past, and they just start kissing. They just immediately start kissing.
There's references in future stuff, particularly movies that people don't like, where Kirk references an old flame, and I'm trying to remember if the name matches up here. Might not, but I'm not gonna look it up. We're just gonna get there, I guess.
I guess so. When we come back from a commercial break, Kirk says, "Oh, you haven't aged in 15 years. How can you possibly be here?" And then that Rodriguez guy calls over, and he's like, "Bro, I saw some birds. What's up? Are our scanners wrong?"
Kirk's a little annoyed at this point too. He's like,
It's
"No,
like,
they're not wrong."
Imagine
I have
you saw your like college sweetheart and bully and Don Juan and a big rabbit, and then your coworker calls back and he's like, "I saw a bird. I saw a bird."
fuck up, Rodriguez. Shut up. Shut the fuck up.
The fuck out of here, Rodriguez. I'm trying to kiss Ruth.
I'm gonna kiss her.
I'm gonna
I'm
kiss.
not gay, Rodriguez.
I don't want to kiss
Shut
Spock.
up.
I don't want to kiss Spock. I want to kiss
Shut
Ruth.
up.
He starts touching her ears. He's like, they ain't the same.
Uh,
Kirk says he's basically just like, he's basically just like, okay, we all got to meet back at the place where we first beamed down. Something's going on here. Let's all meet up. Rally Point Alpha. Let's go. And then Spock calls down and he's like, hey, just so you know, also there's this weird energy field and it's draining all of the like energy from our guns and communicators. And I think he also implies it's being drained from the Enterprise, because at one point later he's like, yeah, I only have enough energy to beam down myself. So it must be also draining energy from the Enterprise in some way.
that's probably fine.
So then we cut back to Bones and Darrow, and I wrote, this is a creepy scene. Bones is, I think, the oldest member of the crew. He certainly looks like it. If I had to guess, I would say DeForest Kelley was a heavy smoker, just based on the way he looks and his teeth. I'm pretty sure he was a pretty heavy smoker. So he might look older than he is.
I will say he was the first TOS cast member to pass away.
Unfortunate.
I think he died in like 1998.
Well,
maybe earlier.
I do feel a little bad about making fun of him. I did know that he was dead.
No. He is. Well, you're saying
he
was the oldest, probably.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense. Yeah.
1999 he died.
So Darrow, they're walking, and Darrow's like, hey, this is a crazy place. This is the kind of place where a lady should be walking around in like a big flowy dress with a tall hat with a veil. And I was like, that's weirdly specific. I bet that doesn't show up. And then it showed up. And then it like almost immediately showed up.
She's like, look how beautiful this dress is I found in the trees, and it looks like a big bed sheet.
I found this trash shirt in a bush. There's a naked princess around here somewhere. But before the dress shows up, Bones is like, but if you were wearing that, you'd have an army of Don Juans and me. And then they like stare at each other longingly and hold hands. And I'm like, she's like 22 and you look 62. Can you stop?
No. Bones is gonna get some. Bones is Bones is like, damn it, Jim, it's my time to be horny.
I think I like Bones generally, but sometimes him and Kirk, both of them, they just gotta chill. They gotta stop sometimes with the racism and the sexism. You gotta tone it down a little bit, please.
It's crazy. Bones has a lot of off-color stuff that he just says and does.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering, when does that stop? Because like, I don't know. Bones is I remembered him being more level-headed, and he is level-headed when it comes to the important stuff. He tends to say the right thing, but then there's little moments like this where I'm like, Bones, be serious, please. Stop trying to do a cradle robbing with your cosplay girlfriend on this weird planet. That we don't know what's happening.
Are currently trying to track down a literary character who tried to beat this woman's ass. And also a white rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. Like, some crazy stuff is going on. Can you like maybe keep your head on a swivel and not think with your dick for a second?
He's like, no.
But
it's my time. It's my dick's time.
So it's my dick's time. The dress shows up in a bush, the trash dress in the trash bush, and then she's like, oh, I kind of want to try it on. And he's like, I want you to try it on too.
He's like, yeah, I think,
Put the stupid looking princess dress on. He specifically says, because she goes to go put it on, and she's like, don't peek, because like of course she does. And then Bones is like, I'm a doctor. if I peek, it's in my line of duty. And I was like, Bones, stop. Don't, Bones, please. Bones, please.
Gotta be.
Bones, you gotta get out of here. So then Rodriguez calls to let Bones know about the plan
Doesn't
to meet
count.
up at the place where they landed. And it's just like this random cutaway. But it cuts to Rodriguez, and him and the girl from the previous episode are just like hiding next to a tree. And then it cuts. There's just a tiger.
Tiger!
There's a full-ass tiger. And
So-
and at this point, there's the tiger is never in the same shot with the two. And so I was like, oh, it's just like stock footage of a tiger. But later, we'll see.
yeah. No. We've got a real tiger, and he's really on set. So for this particular instance, yeah, the tiger is just doing its tiger thing, and it's not next to these actors. They're just pretending. We use the tiger different later, and I've got things to say about it.
Yeah. So Barrow comes back out of the. Oh, sorry, Jim. What to say about
you
the
know
tiger?
what I want to say about the tiger.
Yeah.
So freaking Bones gets down to the planet, and he's like, "Oh, it's like Alice in Wonderland." He sees Alice in Wonderland. Sulu is like, oh, "This place is cool. I wish I could shoot a gun here." He got a gun.
Yeah.
So clearly, somebody was like, "Why are there no birds?" Oh, there's birds. And then because they were told about birds, Kirk then saw birds. I'm
Mhm.
assuming, or unless they were just actual birds.
I think it might have been the same birds that the guy saw.
Yeah. And then I don't know who was thinking of Don Juan. I don't know how that really happened.
Barrow said that or Darrow rather, had said that she was like, she was thinking romantically because of how pretty the place was, and so she was like, this is the kind of place where Don Juan would hang out.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And then, but when it comes to the tiger,
yeah,
they're just like, we're looking around, looking for anything suspicious. It'd be crazy if there was a tiger here. Oh shit!
Oh my god, there's a tiger here.
A fucking tiger!
There's a whole ass tiger over there. What the hell? So this cutaway happens while Darrow is changing, and then we cut back as she comes out, and boy does she look stupid.
Well,
Boy,
she looks like
I mean, she still looks hot because she's very attractive, but the dress is ugly. It is a really ugly dress.
She looks like she bought a souvenir dress and cap, whatever you would call that, at a Ren fair. She looks like she's at an old Ren fair.
The hat looks ridiculous. Like it looks really, really bad. The dress is like, I guess, fine. It's boring and clearly made of like really cheap fabric, but otherwise it's like whatever.
The dress looks better on her. You see the details. When I said it looked like a bed sheet before, I was like, that looks like nothing. But then she's wearing it, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine.
It's also worth
noting, the hat is obviously
she wears this stupid dress for pretty much the rest of the episode. She's like running around in this fucking thing for like the next 40 minutes.
And the hat.
Yeah.
I feel like the hat is the more important part.
It's crazy. It's
because
crazy.
The dress, you're like, oh, she's in the dress. But she's got the hat. Like Bill and Ted are gonna come back in time and take her and marry her.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh man. So Kirk and Spock communicate. They're talking to each other. And they're basically just like, yeah, something's crazy going on, and this is definitely not a hallucination. Like, it is, whatever these things are, they have a physical form. They are real. It is not a fictional or like a hallucination situation. This is real. And then as soon as they finish having this conversation, a samurai pops out of a hole in the ground and attacks Sulu.
Yeah. That's what we're doing.
He just goes, Kya! He just starts swinging a sword around.
I almost wish that earlier we had run down a list of like, here's all the things that just appear out of nowhere in this episode.
No, because then we wouldn't have the fun bit of being able to say, and then a samurai jumps out of a hole in the ground, and the audience goes, and what?
Well, like, imagine you start, you're like, the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, Alice from Alice in Wonderland, a gun, a tiger, a dress, a samurai, a fucking Japanese Zero from World War II.
All right, now you're spoiling stuff.
I am. I don't think it was Japanese. I think it was a German plane.
It's a World War II plane of some type. But yeah, so the samurai attacks and he runs off and he ends up bumping into Kirk. At which point we find out that the battery has been almost completely drained on their communicators and their phasers, so they can't shoot guns. And Spock beams down, and I wrote, and it takes a weirdly long time for him to materialize, which I guess is because the transporter is like losing power. And he's like, I told you not to come down. And he's like, well, we only had enough power to send me down. And frankly, it looked like it was a technological thing. And you're pretty stupid, is like how I read the situation. Is like, I can fix this.
Yeah.
If it's a real problem, like, I can fix this. And
everyone is so dumbfounded by, like, wow, look at that thing. Oh my God, there's that thing. He's hearing all this from up there. He's like, these motherfuckers need some logic.
They need some
ASAP.
They need something going on. And then I wrote, who's in charge of the Enterprise right now? Because the assumption that I would have is that it would be Uhura, but in like a previous episode when they all left, he didn't give control of the ship to Uhura. He gave control of the bridge to just some dude.
That navigator for a second.
Yeah, but it wasn't like Styles. It was just some other guy.
Yeah, I think the chain of command here, it would be Kirk and then Spock, and then I think Sulu, and then whatever other members or that you would think Bones, but he's
Yeah.
just the doctor, so
Yeah,
he's
he's
never
also not
really
even
in charge.
there.
In charge. Yeah, they don't have Chekhov yet. It's either some random guy, Uhura, I guess.
It's somehow Riley, and that's why we don't see it.
Man,
He's just
that's
up there
crazy.
singing. So they hear a tiger
I thought he
roar.
might be in charge.
They have this conversation, then they hear a tiger roar, and they run off. And then we cut back to Bones and Barrow, and who are or Darrow, I don't know, it's one of them, who are being accosted
Lady.
by a knight. A knight shows up because she says something about like, oh, I feel like I am going to be in danger or whatever, and he's like, I'm your knight, I'll protect you. And so I guess then she thinks of a real knight who then shows up and just kills Bones,
He runs him through with the lance.
stabs him with a
completely.
lance because Bones
He
is like,
kebabs him.
he's not real. I'll just stand here, and he just runs up and stabs him and goes, oh, I was wrong, oh, it hurts, and dies like immediately.
And then after that, there's a very quick thing where Kirk draws the gun they found.
He draws the real ass gun and shoots the knight,
Spock pulls a phaser,
which might still have energy
but
because it was on the ship.
but like Kirk does this little move where he like taps Spock like don't fire the phaser, and then he fires the gun.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's very quick. They're both like pointing the thing, but then Kirk just like leans over with his gun hand and he says, "Put the phaser down." But then he shoots the knight.
Yeah. So they shoot the knight, they kill him, they run right past, and they're like, oh my god, Bones is dead. Whoa, 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 whoa. Barrow starts crying hysterically. She's like, oh my god, it's my fault, blah, blah, blah. Kirk grabs her and is like, I need you to stop and I need you to have a clear mind, which is now the second episode in a row where someone was romantically interested in somebody else. That person died, and Kirk immediately physically grabbed that woman.
That's what he does. That's his knee-jerk reaction.
He loves stealing women from dead men.
I just want to say we were joking earlier that Kirk is closeted gay
Yeah.
and that he's like over.
He's just in love with Spock, and I think that's fine. And I think he needs to come to terms with that.
I think Kirk is pansexual. I think he's about all of it.
Well, wasn't that
I
a
think-
thing in the J.J. Abrams ones? Weren't they like, oh, he's bi? And then people got mad?
I don't think that. Well, that someone might have said that, but I don't think that ever translated.
Yeah, I don't think
to
he like
the
kisses a man
movies.
on screen because it's a movie in America, and so that's not allowed to happen. But I think someone did say that like he was pan or something. I might be wrong.
I think there was
but
a
I
thing
think
at
someone
some
said that.
point where someone said Captain Kirk was pansexual, and then William Shatner was like, "No, I don't think so."
Yeah, but William Shatner's a butthole, so they go back over to the knight, and he's got a weird face. And I wrote, I don't know how they did this effect. It looks like it's a real because it looks like it's a real face. Because at some point the eyes are different amounts of open, so I think it is an actor under there wearing just like a really heavy amount of makeup and like Vaseline on the face or something. Do you have a trivia or something about how they did this effect? Because it looks not great, but it looks also very unhuman.
The gross puppet face thing.
Yeah, because I think it is a real person.
I think it is too. I don't have a trivia on that. I can tell you because, like, when they unmask it, don't they say like, "I don't get it. I'm confused. I don't understand." And I said, "Yeah, me neither."
Yeah, I went. Yeah,
It's
me
a
neither.
weird, it's a weird greasy man. What is it? And then,
Yeah.
then somebody says like, "It's like a doll or a puppet." And I'm like, "Oh, that's what that's supposed to be."
Spock looks at it and he says basically the same thing you said, and then he's like, "It's made of the same structure of the plants," and he's like, "They're all being manufactured." So I guess all the plants and stuff is also fake. So we are just on like a big holodeck or something. But the people are so he's just like, this isn't real. This is a fake person. Then we cut to the other two random crew members who are that now being shot at by a World War II style plane that makes a strafing run at them because the guy's like, oh, well, that's crazy. Well, they can't shoot us unless they do a strafing run.
Damn. How'd they do that?
And then the girl, Angela, who I wrote here, because I went, Angela, runs straight into a tree and knocks herself out for the rest of the episode. She's not holding up great in these episodes, this Angela. And then it cuts back to Kirk and Kirk and Spock in that team, and the Knight and Bones' bodies are just missing. And I don't know how they were stolen,
Swallowed up by the earth, I assume.
like the floor from Smart House.
Yes, exactly like the floor from Smart House.
Finnegan shows up again and lures away Kirk by basically tapping his head like the French guy from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. He chases after them. And I wrote, eventually they fight, but first it's the longest chase scene because I guess we needed to get to full runtime. I think it goes on for like 2 full minutes of just running through this park.
You know what? I think you're more right than you realize.
Yeah. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. It's rough. But then they finally start fighting, and the fight is also pretty long. I think I think it is the longest fight to date that we've seen, like choreographed fight scene. And it ends with like they have to do a commercial break in the middle of it, and so Finnegan like plays that he's paralyzed himself. He then flips Kirk's
He's the
stunt
epic
double.
prankster.
Yeah,
He's the epic prankster. He's like, "Oh, you broke me back.
You
You broke
broke me
me,
back.
wee Irish back. Please,
Wee."
please, Jim Kirk, please." And he's like, "Ah, I got you.
Yeah. When
You
Kirk
fell
like,
for the old Irish broken back trick."
oh oh, I've broken me shillelagh. I can't walk. I can't feel me bangers
It
no
is.
mash.
It is. If you think I'm mocking Irish people,
This is the
I'm
accent
not.
that the guy is
I'm
doing.
mocking this
It's
guy,
so bad.
who I guarantee you is not Irish.
No, not a chance. Not a chance.
It's just how Kirk remembers this jackass from school.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my god, what a dickhead. What a piece of ass.
He was bullied in the academy by an actual leprechaun.
Oh no. He like pretends that he's got like broken his back, and he like tries to help him, and Finnegan grabs him and flips him and knocks him out into a commercial. But also when he flips him, his shoulder pops out.
There it is.
So we
The
finally
slutty shoulder.
It's been a couple episodes, but we
Yes.
finally got Kirk's slutty shoulder back out.
100%.
It took a
I've
lot
never
of work.
been happier to see it.
It was worth it. I'm glad that we got here.
Yeah. A couple notes. I wrote. I know that he's an illusion, but Kirk needs to kill this guy.
He needs to kill this guy. Well, he's not an illusion. He's made out of like plant matter or something. I don't know.
And then the other thing I have here is at one point while they're fighting, the leprechaun starts haunting Kirk, saying like, "Oh, you're an old man now, and I'm still 20 years old." I'm like, "Bull shit!
This man
You're
is
20
clearly
years old.
the man is clearly like
You're like 38."
he's got to be. I was like in the ballpark of 40 for sure. Which is, I guess, fine because there was a girl like 2 episodes ago who was saying she was 19 and being played by clearly like a 35-year-old actress. But whatever.
Yeah.
Um. So
Do you think I'm just gonna we've talked a lot about Kirk's sexuality in this.
right.
Do you think that this, you know how in Challengers, like
I didn't see
the
Challengers.
tennis match isn't a tennis match. It's like an allegory for hot sex.
Yeah, it's a spit swapping makeout match.
Yeah. Do you think this fight is like Kirk blowing off all of his gay steam?
Yeah. I think I genuinely think there's a chance. Just reading into it, an entire plot that is not real. I think there's a chance that Finnegan was his first male crush, and so but Finnegan was not gay, and so it felt extra hurtful that like the guy that Kirk had a crush on was bullying him, and so he just like wants to take it out on this puppet of Finnegan.
I don't even know if I think it was in this headcanon gay ship we have going on here.
Yeah.
I don't think it was unreciprocated. I think this is the classic, like, "Mom, why does little Billy pull my pigtails?" Well, because he's got a crush on you, Susie.
Aw, I mean maybe, but this is when they're 20, so it would have had to have been college. Is college still an age where you are pulling people's pigtails? And I feel especially maybe it's different in the 60s. I feel like especially the gay community pretty open with like, hey, would you like to make out?
But I think they were 2 men that at the time weren't fully established. You know what? We're gonna get some like Star Trek fan. It's like, "No, Kirk is not.
He could not be gay.
Thumbs down." It's like, listen, dude.
Look,
chill
we
out.
know he's not. Like we know that's
Listen,
not canon.
chill
I just
It's all
like
right.
it just feels like it sometimes. You know?
No,
what I mean?
it's canon. It is canon. He gets dudes and chicks
Yeah.
because Kirk is cool.
Kirk can get whatever he wants. That's all I'm saying. And Pike could have done more because frankly, Pike was more attractive. If we're just being honest. Anyway,
Probably, yeah.
uh,
After this huge fist fight,
yeah, Kirk wins.
Kirk's like, Kirk wins, and he's got more than just the slutty shoulder. His
His
whole his
yeah,
whole right tit is hanging out
his whole
of his torn
boobas,
up
which
clothes,
is really funny
and
because
he's
when it cuts back, when the fight is continuing after the break, so his shirt's all messed up, and it cuts to his stunt double. His stunt double is like way more muscular than him, and so every time you see him from the back, he just has like this huge shoulder muscle, and then it cuts to his front, and it's just like, eh. It's like this little like very normal looking arm, and you're
that's
like,
about right.
oh,
That looks like me.
that's definitely me.
Yeah, he wins the fight, and then Spock is like, "Do you have fun?" And Kirk is like, "You know what? I
I
did."
did actually. I loved beating that guy's ass. That piece of ass, I loved beating him. And this is where Spock is like, oh, they must be getting like the things that we think about, they're being made real. We're like almost at the end of the episode, and we're just now figuring this out, I guess. But Spock's only been on the planet for like 5 seconds, to be fair.
Yeah.
So Spock says, for instance, he's like, he says something about the tiger, and then the tiger is just behind him. And
Yeah.
this time it's in the same shot, and it has like clearly like a chain around its neck where it like can't move and run to like
The
kill
camera the
Leonard Nimoy.
camera pans over. It's within the same shot, and the tiger's there. And yeah, I compared both earlier when it wasn't in the same shot of people. It did not have a collar and chain,
Yeah,
but now it does.
yeah, because they don't want it to kill Leonard Nimoy, which is also like
Yeah.
maybe don't have a tiger.
All right, you want another trivia fact? I've got it. I've got it for this tiger right here.
Oh no, did they kill the tiger?
A
Oh my god, they killed
chained
that tiger.
tiger was brought in to appear in the episode,
Uh,
but never directly interacts with any of the performers.
true,
William Shatner originally hoped to wrestle the tiger,
brother. You
but
gotta stop.
but was persuaded it would not have been a wise decision.
You don't say. What did he think was gonna? What did he think was gonna happen? It's a
Just let me-
tiger.
Just let me fight the tiger.
Shat, you gotta stop. You're out of your mind.
You can't stop the Shat Man.
You can't stop the Shat Man. So, and to prove that you can't stop the Shat Man, Spock and Kirk then just like take off running, presumably because there's a tiger behind them. And as they're running, they run past basically everything else that's been spawned at this point. They deal with the planes. There's a samurai, and then Don
He
Juan
one hit KOs the samurai.
He does
like
one hit. He just
football tackles him in the stomach and just runs past him.
They didn't have football back in feudal Japan. They didn't see it coming.
That's true.
They get back to where Barrow is, and Don Juan is accosting her again as she's changing back into her uniform. And I wanted to say, did she have a different uniform, or did she imagine a second uniform? Because this one's not ripped, and distinctly the first one was ripped in a way where like the black collar part was still there, but the shoulder was ripped away, so it was like damaged. It wasn't just like pulled off of her shoulder.
This one's still ripped.
No,
it's
it might
be
together.
ripped differently. No, if
The collar is attached.
the collar is like it's messed up on one side. I promise you.
I remember being like distinctly like, this is a different shirt.
I'll show you. I'll show you right now. This doesn't help our listeners, but I'll show you. Here, this little screen cap.
Right. Okay, but put a picture from when they're standing at attention.
She does kind of like prop it back up here. Let me.
I don't know. Yeah, no, you're right. It looked to me. I guess I wasn't looking that closely, but it looked like it was just like.
I remembered thinking it when I watched the episode for the first time. Oh, you know what it is, Daniel? You know what it is? We're both right and we're both wrong.
Oh.
When Don Juan got her the first time, he completely tore the other side of her uniform. So he's just an animal.
So he's just
this
torn
guy.
a second
What
shirt.
kind of romance? This guy's a monster.
Romance my ass, frankly.
He will too.
I'm glad we could end amicably. We were both right, but both wrong. Smart but dumb. Smart but dumb. Smart but dumb.
Yeah.
So they, I guess, beat up Don Juan. I think he kind of just like runs off. They don't like kill him. I'm pretty sure.
They say, "Get out of here, you sex offender!" And he went, "Oh!" and he ran off into the bushes.
He twisted his mustache and then went to go spank it in a ficus. Kirk makes the rest of the crew stand at attention so that and he's like, "Don't think. Stop thinking." Yeah, I gotta stop. And then, like 2 seconds later, an old man shows up, and I swear the look on his face is like, "Who thought of Grandpa? Who thought of the old man? Who was like, I wish my grandpa was here. He would know what to do." So this old man with a pot belly shows up, and he's like, he's basically just like, "Hey, this is just like we thought that this was gonna be fun, but y'all are like taking this way too crazy. Like, I don't know what's going on. We're like an advanced race, and we use this place to hang out and just like chill. But you guys are like not hanging. You are
He's
not doing
basically
well.
he's basically Bob Iger being like, it occurs to me you guys don't realize you're in my theme park.
Yeah. So
This is all for fun and not real.
basically the conversation is, hey, this isn't real. This is just like a theme park, basically, that we use to hang out and have a good time. And Kirk's like, but my doctor is dead. And then Bones shows up with two, I wrote hussies. Uh, he
We'll
shows,
go with that.
he shows up with two hussies. And Darrow, who he was like, or Barrow, who he was flirting with earlier, is like clearly upset about it. But like, she misdirects the anger at the two not real people and pushes them away so that she can hold Bones' arm. But then I looked it up and she's only in this episode, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
Uh, but whatever. And the mystery man is basically just like, hey, you can't tell people that like we're here or whatever. Like, you people are not ready to meet my people. But if you want, like, you can come here and hang out sometimes. And then Kirk is just like, yeah, all right, beam down the people, and the episode ends.
Yep.
Basically, I
And
mean,
we
Ruth shows up in
all
the
win.
distance again, and he's like, Spock. The ending is Spock goes, I don't need this. I'm gonna go back to the ship and do banana and my socks and underwear, and then and Kirk is about to be like, yeah, I don't want any more of this either. But then his college girlfriend, I guess Ruth, shows up in the distance, and he's like, maybe I will stay for a couple days. And I went, a couple days?
They do end, they go back up to the bridge.
Yeah,
And Spock is like, "Did you enjoy your vacation?" And they're all like, "You know what? We really did." And Spock's like, "Most illogical.
most illogical. You all smell of sweat and cum.
Especially you, Doctor. You smell the most of sweat and cum."
How do you feel about this episode? Is this an engage or is this illogical?
Man, it is so goofy, this
Yeah.
one. But like, okay, there's nothing about this that I hate. I think I'm just like all on board with just this is goofy 60s television. Clearly we hit like a hiccup in the writing scripts department and we had to pad for time and we just grabbed whatever we could. But like I'm not angry at any of it.
No.
I think I only give illogical when something's like really pisses me off or annoys me or just like a waste of time.
That's fair.
Uh so I think I'm leaning towards engage, but Spock himself gave this an illogical, you know?
Yeah, and I think I'm going with Spock. Because I think this is a fun episode.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I don't know. This episode kind of makes me it makes me dislike Bones a little bit more. I think it makes him creepy. I don't think Kirk is great in this. I think he has like some fun moments. I don't know. It's just like it makes me ask questions about like, did we have animal cruelty on this episode? Like, what happened with the
Probably,
tiger? What's
but
the situation with the tiger?
you can't
Like,
everything
yeah,
everything back then had animal
that
cruelty.
is true. So I think I'm gonna give it an illogical, but like a really soft illogical, where I'm like, it's still fun. It wouldn't be one of the ones I recommend people
Yeah,
watch, but if you enjoyed it, I'd
yeah.
be like, yeah, it was a fun one. Yeah, you know what I mean?
So my last trivia for this is Gene Roddenberry was actively rewriting this episode while they were shooting it. So
Damn.
I don't know the reason before that. I don't know why that had happened, but clearly he was like, this isn't working. We got to do something else. And then, which is why I believe we have the extended fight sequence. They were padding for time.
You know what? That makes sense actually. I could see
But
that for
yeah,
sure.
apparently, just picture Roddenberry sitting underneath one of those big trees in this episode, wearing his little sun hat, frantically like writing, trying to keep the episode, as it says here, under budget and within the realms of believability. Dude, this is Star Trek.
You
Under
filmed
budget, I get,
you
but
filmed it in a park. You got the bunny costume for free. How much did the tiger cost? Because that's probably the most expensive thing here. Well, no, you had to rent a night costume too, didn't you? There were some costumes here. There was a samurai.
yeah,
Maybe they just went down to
but
like Hollywood
they
Boulevard and pick up some
they didn't have
cosplayers.
to build any sets, so that works.
True. What a fun time.
Hmm.
Anyway, everybody, if you had fun with these 2 episodes, or at least our discussion about them, you can leave a comment here or here on either Spotify or YouTube where we are. You can follow the show on Twitter at rsr_pod and tell us all about what you would like for us to do in the future there. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Daniel J. McGee.
And you can follow me at Skyler 8-bit on Blue Sky if you have to.
If you have to. Thank you so much, everybody. And until next time, let's see what's out there.
Let's see what's out there.
Jump right in, everything